and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Review of the minutes, monthly town board meeting of August 2nd, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Bid opening of August 8th, 2018, window installation. No
No
bids.
bids.
So what do we do with that? Can't move it. I mean, just-
Oh, I thought when they redo the, you
Oh,
were gonna
okay.
include it.
All right, well, yeah, there are, we did read the notice, so there was a meeting. All right, could I get a motion on that, accepting the no bids?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Thank you. Committee reports, Conservation Board.
Okay, the Conservation Board met on August 14th. That day, it did site visits and had a meeting that evening. Prior to that, also, there was an August 9th meeting as a prep meeting. This was all for the New York City DEP Catskill Aqueduct Repair and Rehabilitation Project. This is obviously, they came before us a few years prior, and as we received packets to give us ideas as to exactly what's going to happen in the town of Philipstown. There was actually 11 primary locations. The group consisted of our building inspector, our town engineer, highway superintendent, natural resources, and conservation officers. And also, at that meeting, those meetings took place at the actual inspections, certain inspection locations that'll be occurring. Now, some things, obviously, that got into a lot of detail. This is a lot of administrative processes, wetlands permits, and so forth that have to be issued based on different locations and what's occurring at those particular points. I think the biggest thing that we try to stress upon them was that it's very important to keep us advised of exactly what they're doing. They're going to be doing construction in these different areas, wetlands disturbance, steep slope, cleaning and grading, flood plan developments, so forth. They will be doing road shutdowns, delays and so forth. Some things that I brought up to them and asked them as well was, please keep us advised if you think in any ways any adjacent neighbors may be affected in any way by construction, noise, or light. So it was a very good discussion. They're very organized, very professional. The fact that they've obviously been doing this with other communities as well is a comfort as well, because that means they obviously have a lot of this down pat. So the meeting went very well, and these will be continuing. I did go over the schedule that they gave us originally, and they are planning to pretty much hold that, obviously, unless there's a particular problem. But they will be starting, as the schedule showed, with mechanical repairs in the fall of this year. They have contingency timeframes for the spring, and then they have the biofilm removal inside. Again, contingency plans for the following spring in 2020. And then the overall program contingency, they hope to finish by, for us at least, by the end of 2020. The project is slated to go through 2022, so it is a long-term project. So that pretty much took up a lot of our time. They really were the main person on for that particular day. Yeah, sure. A couple of just quick comments I wanted to raise in regards to environmental issues. Very distressful to actually see in the paper that there were recently the tire dumping issues. Our natural resource officer notified us immediately about the issues and responded. We had some very dedicated people, townspeople, who actually removed tires. The highway superintendent actually had to go in as well and investigate. This is very disturbing to see something like this. We have had and reported in the past illegal dumpings in this town. This is really unforgivable. Human beings make mistakes, but this is a clear willful action against us, our environment, and our personal health. And these tires can be handed at a number of locations for a matter of dollars. To think that somebody could stop and start rolling these down into critical areas like Indian Brook with our waterways and so forth is very disturbing. So obviously I'm glad that this has been receiving attention. Hopefully everybody will realize this, and this again gets back to if you see something, say something. We really need people to take action, notify law enforcement right away, so that we can put a real let these people know that we're not going to allow that to happen in our town. This is really, in the last year or two, has really become more and more of an issue, so hopefully we'll be more and more aggressive, and I hope people that are caught are dealt with aggressively in the courts to send messages as well. The other item quickly in there was about recycling as well, and the fact quickly that China is now accepting less of contamination rate, almost down to 0 per se. Vietnam and Thailand still accept, and some other countries accept recycling from this country, but we may have to get a little bit, basically it's giving heads up to getting more involved with separation of recycling materials and so forth, and talked a little bit about certain corridors that we have in the areas. This is an area that we may, again, have to do a public educational program because it is critical that we make sure that we have a good and operating program. We don't want to slide and have people start to say it's not worth it, I'm just throwing it all out in the regular trash. So it's very important we don't take a slide in those areas. We also, at the August 9th meeting, had a meeting where Roberto Muller is the coordinator for Climate Smart. We had our second, what's called Green Team meeting. This is a group of people, a lot of them were the people that I had mentioned before, that actually actively get involved with the town and its structure and so forth, because we're going to be actually starting, and we actually have began the process of performing a municipal evaluation and inventory actually of all of our systems, how they operate, are we efficient, can we be more efficient, and it's going to be highway, it's going to be these buildings. Obviously, the good news for us is we're in that process of upgrading it, so that should go very well for us. And then, obviously, we are setting up programs where we're going to start trying to work with people in the community to try to encourage them as well to get their homes and their lifestyles more to where we're complying a little bit more and saving against some of these greenhouse gases, which clearly are having effects. So we can, I think, attest by the warmer weather. And with that, the Conservation Board will be meeting next on September 11th.
Thanks, Mike. Recreation.
The Recreation Commission did not meet in the month of August since our last meeting, but they will be meeting again September 18th.
I just wanted to mention the part of the rec department. Amber met with Bureau of Emergency Services Commissioner Ken Clare and Kathy Percocello to talk about the sheltering issue. It was really great to put these three people together and come up with a solution, keeping, hopefully keeping elected officials out of it and let them solve the problem, which they did, and they've come up with a great plan. Kathy's going to be a key person involved with on-site sheltering when needed. And it was good to have Ken on-site there, and we had live turkeys in the gym at that time, and the highway department came and cleared them out. Oh, you were going to say
read that in the-
From where? Oh, from the highway. I'm
That's okay.
sorry.
That's
Here,
all right.
have a drink. Have a drink.
Keep going.
It's all right.
We'll just sit back.
Just-
Philipstown Coalition That Cares.
The Philipstown Coalition That Cares, sponsored in coordination with the Walter Hoving Home, a really nice international overdose awareness event vigil down at the waterfront last weekend. The St. Christopher's Choir came in their robes, and the Walter Hoving Home Choir came and sang. They each sang one song, and then they sang a song together. And we lit candles and rode on river rocks, and it was a really second annual, really nice, moving event. I had to read the names of the deceased, and one thing that we wanted to do was to honor those that have OD'd and honor them for their courage and take away the shame and raise awareness, and I think that was a great event. We are going to start our year with the Coalition That Cares with our first upcoming meeting, which is the 26th, and we don't have a location yet, do we? No. Check out our Facebook and check out our website that Michael designed. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Planning Board.
The planning board did not meet in the month of August, I'm sorry. They will be meeting on September 20th.
Great, thanks, Bob. Zoning.
Zoning also did not meet in August. They will not be meeting in September per the request of the applicant. There's only one application before them, but they will be meeting October 15th here at 7:30.
You want to do the highway, or you want Nancy?
Want me to do it?
Philipstown Town Board, Carl Frazenda, Highway Superintendent, work performed by the Philipstown Highway Department for the month of August. Due to the extreme rainfall totals last month and into August, crews have been out grading the dirt roads and filling potholes, which is necessary due to the washouts we've had. This work does not happen overnight, and we are working as quickly as possible with shorter crews. Yeah, with shorter crews due to vacation times. Now that the weather conditions seem to be on our side, we are starting to catch up with the dirt road repair work. The highway crew spent a large majority of the time clearing waterways on an ongoing basis and doing pipe work. A much-needed new pipe was installed on Old Albany Post Road earlier in the month. After road paving was completed last month, the finishing touches are being worked on to finalize the roads. This includes any driveway aprons which need to be touched up. We ask for your patience in getting this work completed. We were notified of tires being dumped. Mike took my.
Oh, my God, you poor thing.
Mike took it
Go
all,
ahead.
yeah. We were notified of tires being dumped on Indian Brook Road and have been working together with the Sheriff's Department and DEC to investigate and remove the tires. This act is illegal and the incident is still under investigation. Kudos to Dave Marzolo and George Lansbury and anyone else who helped with removal of the 50-plus tires that were taken out of the stream. On a lighter note, we were called down to the rec department to rescue a mother turkey and her 4 chicks. This was accomplished with the help of Richard Stewart, Amber, and as well as Johnny Jezik. We can't make this stuff up. I guess they had the door open.
Yeah,
and
is there a
this-
turkey
they
theme?
came in.
You know.
Yeah, they did. The Highway Department received about 55 phone calls or faxes regarding road complaints and/or road issues. The higher total of calls this month was mostly due to weather-related issues. The Highway Department spent roughly $5,000 in vehicle maintenance for the month of August. Carl Frazenda, Highway Superintendent.
Thanks, John. Does anybody want to talk about the turkeys anymore?
I do.
Yeah, I know you do.
I want them to come back in.
Unfortunately, one did not make
The
it.
mother.
The mother did not.
The mother didn't make.
Mother, the other 4 survived.
Basketball hoop.
Yeah.
Jesus. Don't say that. They're supposed to have a happy ending here.
I know.
Flu?
Putnam County Legislator.
What do I do with this? Put it back in the holder? That's not too hard. I got it. I'm not sure how to handle this.
Don't get in trouble.
Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is my T21 initiative, raising the age from 18 to 21. Unfortunately, it was tabled on Tuesday night's meeting, much to my disappointment. The other legislators had this law for 5 weeks, but waited until the night of the vote to ask a lot of questions about what was in the law. So unfortunately, there were too many questions to answer in, an hour before the full meeting. So although I still wanted to vote on it, they tabled it, which is fine. I understand if you're not sure about something, you shouldn't vote on it. They want part of the law taken out, the licensing aspect. They thought that was problematic. So I took that out, which can be revisited later on. The reason we put that in the law was to keep track of where these vape shops are. So for now, that's out. And then they had a few issues with fines. So I'm working very hard with Legislative Council to come up with a new draft for my health meeting on the 14th. Hopefully, it will get out of committee and then come back before the legislature in October. So I was hoping to get it done by September so the schools would have it. I reached out to all the superintendents of schools in all of the county, and they all responded and said that this is a real issue. So I'm hoping that that'll work. What nicotine does to the teenage brain, I don't think people really realize the impacts of nicotine. Nicotine is such an addictive drug. It's right below heroin, and I don't think people understand that. And, this is something so new on the scene, vaping, that we don't know what's going to happen later on, what the health problems will be later on for these kids that are vaping so much. So hopefully. And I didn't come up with this idea myself. This came out of the task force. And this task force has people on it that have had decades of experience with addiction. And this was one of the first initiatives they said, this will make a difference. So it will get passed. It will. I did manage to get the synthetic drug law passed, which, as you know, I've been talking about that for at least a year. You know, people are under the misconception that synthetic drugs aren't real drugs, so they're not as harmful. Well, newsflash, they're almost sometimes worse because the chemicals that are in a synthetic drug are horrific. So, you know, this is synthetic marijuana, this is fentanyl, that's a synthetic drug, you know, a whole litany of things. We've heard on the news that there's been outbreaks of people smoking K2 in the Bronx, and there'll be 20 zombies walking around because it just totally knocks you out. So, not that we have that here, but I believe prevention is the way to go, is to make sure it doesn't come here. Or if it does come here, you know, it's labeled K2, bath salts. They keep changing the chemistry of these products. So what the law department did is really researched and said if this drug, say K2, has any one of these listed ingredients, it's banned. So that'll help with the synthetic drugs. So I'm very happy about that. The next one in the hopper is medication take-back that we are asking the pharmacies with more than 3 locations in Putnam County to take back meds. I know we have a great system in place. We have one downstairs. We have, you know, all over the county. They're in different really, you know, Putnam Valley has one, Carmel has one, so they are around. But for a senior, he goes to the drugstore to buy his medication. Why can't he bring this stuff back that he's not using anymore or that has expired? Last year alone, we took back 2,500 pounds of medication. That's amazing. So that'll be a good law to put in. Hopefully, they won't give me a hard time on that. I don't think they will. I know, Richard, you attended the shared services. I know it's a small step, but I think it's the beginning of something bigger that we can keep working on and fine-tune and come up to. If we all work together, I think that's the important thing. I know I've talked about this a lot. Once the senior center gets going, which I went there today and the sheetrock is up, they're going to start putting the fixtures in the bathroom, so things are moving along very nicely. Again, anyone who wants to go and see it, let me know, or you can stop by. They're very happy to show it. So it's looking good. You know, all the walls are up. It's starting to take shape, which is very exciting. And I really want to bring some services to that facility. You know, I'll work with the village. If they have any problems, I'll work with them. We're not going to have anything in there when the seniors are there. This is after hours. This isn't later in the afternoon. I think this is something we need. This is shared services. This is bringing things from Carmel over to our side. And we all want that. We need that. They don't want to travel 20 miles to Carmel, as we know. The other issue is, I know you probably know about it, it's the Army Corps of Engineers is considering 6 different plans to protect against storm surge as part of its New York, New Jersey harbor tributaries coastal storm risk management feasibility study. Phew. You know, I'm all about prevention, but some of these plans are for massive in-water barriers in the river. You know, as we know, Hudson River is an estuary. It flows back and forth. There's a ton of species that come to the river to spawn. They come up and down. To block the river in any way is not the way to go. You know, I think we should take care of coastline problems, to build barriers, levees, things like that. Not, you know, it's taken us decades to get this river where it is today, so let's not mess it up. There are other alternative and acceptable ways to address the storm surges. Mike, you touched on a good thing with the recycling. I mean, again, we have to educate the public, just with plastic bags, which is another initiative that I'm going to bring back in a few months. And, you know, a lot of these stores, like our store, Food Town, does take back plastic bags, but a lot of people don't realize that you can put dry cleaning bags in there. It's not just the store bags. You can put any kind of plastic bag in that facility. They'll take it back. So I didn't know that. So I think that's good to know. Last but not least is the 2018 schedule of public seasonal influenza vaccine clinics. We have the health department is again offering flu vaccine to people over the age of 18 and older. The cost would be $25, but for people 65 and older, it's free. Monday, September 24th at the Carmel Fire Department, 2 to 6:30. Wednesday, October 10th, the Garrison Fire Department, 2 to 6:30. And Monday, October 22nd, the Carmel Fire Department again. I'll talk about this again in October just to remind everybody.
October 10 was?
Yes, yes. And again, it's so important, especially if you're over 65, to get this flu shot and the pneumonia shot. Unfortunately, the health department doesn't offer that, but they really recommend you get the pneumonia shot as well. I mean, getting the flu when you're older is really very compromising. So, that's it.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Cemetery Committee.
Okay, the Cemetery Committee met a couple of times, first on site visits and the Cedar Street mapping, also on August 14th. As I had said in the past, mapping takes a great deal of time. It's a slow process. We started off originally with a map which actually was generated by a Boy Scout, and we've actually gone from there and continue through the cemetery. But it's also quite interesting, the stories. I really thought there wouldn't be an awful lot of changes, but it's amazing the just going from stone to stone and realizing the significance of why they wrote what they did and so forth. As I had mentioned the previous month, which we discussed also, we were going to try to ask the county to consider doing an annual cemetery recognition day. I think it will either occur in Carmel or possibly here as the first year, which would be next year. Obviously, one thing, since Carmel doesn't have as many members as we do, and that's a nice plus for us, we might actually, if Carmel wants to choose it, we may actually volunteer to actually take a particular cemetery over there and actually handle their tours for them. And if it occurs here, those members will do that here. But we need to be able to go in and actually discuss what are the significant points in the cemetery. For us here, clearly, the Civil War and so forth is a critical time frame for what happened here with everything that occurred. And our cemeteries are our history as well that can help tell that story. So that's something we're looking to do going forward as well. We also, obviously, with the schools back in, we actually had the scouts in the past help us with flags. We're going to hope that maybe they can help us with mapping, and then also the schools to help participate and get involved. They're our future. They're people that we hope to be able to hand this over to and for them to continue. We also, as a group, decided that we will continue doing the Cedar Street Cemetery renovations rather than go back to Mountain Avenue, simply because Cedar Street needs them more right now. We're weighing about whether we want to do dedicated benches or not in the area, but so that's a mixed thing right now between the boards, but we'll continue discussing that. Anybody that would like to join the boards too, please join us. It's the second Tuesday of every month at 6 p.m. right here in Town Hall, and we'd appreciate your support. Even if you can't come to every meeting, there are things you could do, especially in research, that could help us out tremendously. And our next meeting is September 11th.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Good thing you're here, Mike, because he's got so much work for you to do, it sounds like.
Okay, the first item is an honorary resolution for Michael Scicluna, the Eagle Scout Award.
This is probably one of the most pleasurable things I get to do, is to honor young people like this, and this is obviously well-deserved. You must be very proud as parents.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Michael. Whereas the mission of the Boy Scouts of America is to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling the values of the Scout Oath and law, and where Scouts achieve their ranking by fulfilling requirements in the areas of leadership, service, and outdoor skills. Whereas Michael Scicluna of Philipstown, Boy Scout Troop 437, has proven to be an outstanding member of the Boy Scouts of America, attaining the highest honor bestowed on a Scout, the Eagle Scout Award. It's not easy to become an Eagle Scout. We've done this, and I've seen the things that you have to do in order to get there. Whereas Michael earned the rank of Eagle Scout through his many contributions, most notable participating in the creation of the Innovation and Learning Center at the Desmond Fish Library, where he established a framework for communities to support technological literacy. Michael gave back by using skills acquired at the center's Project Code Springer to lead a group of individuals to use technology to meet the networking needs at the library. And whereas Michael was the only courageous student to participate in the Philipstown Communities That Care Coalition, where he devoted his skills to creating a website, providing a vital tool to a group of volunteers whose mission is to combat the drug crisis. And whereas Michael continues to use his skills to help the community, taking initiative when help is needed. Now, therefore, the town board of the town of Philipstown, on behalf of all of its residents, joins with Troop 437 in recognizing this bright and outstanding young man for his many accomplishments, and specifically his receiving the prestigious rank of Eagle Scout as a Boy Scout of America. Signed, the town board and town clerk. Congratulations, Michael. Thank you. I will say, for small town, we just have so many great young people here, and Michael is one of them. So thank you so much. Thank you.
I think I went to Michael's ceremony when he was awarded by the troop, that he's number 55 Eagle Scout in all of Philipstown since the beginning of the Eagle Scout program. Do you know the date when that began, the year, the Eagle Scout program? Is it early 1900s? So we've had 55 Eagle Scouts in Philipstown since the early 1900s, and Michael is one of them. It's a huge accomplishment, and I just want to comment on his work with the Philipstown Communities That Care Coalition, and it's really great to see a young person at the table with that coalition. We thank you for all your help and your dedication to that group. It says a lot, and it's a great role model for the rest of the young people. If you can get more to join, that'd be great. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the next item is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the parade permit for the Walter Hooving Home for an event to be held September 1st, 2018, and waive the fees associated with said permit, and this is nunc-pro-tunc.
This is something we do every year, and we're happy to assist Walter Hoving in their mission in any way we can. So this event has already taken place, hence the nunc-pro-tunc designation. Could I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Can we have a resolution for the proclamation for Michael?
Oh, that might help. So we can go back to that, since we want to move to get it in the minutes. Could I get a motion on the honorary resolution for Michael Scicluna Eagle Scout Award?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. There it is, instilled upon the town board minutes now, in the record.
Okay, the next item is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the AKRF contract for project-specific consulting services at the following hourly rates: Officer 200, Senior Technical Director 195, Technical Director 185, Senior Professional 165, Professional 2 135, Professional 1 125, a Technical 2 at 100, and Technical 1 at 85.
So, with this, I haven't had a chance to speak to anyone at the planning board. I see Kim is here. Kim, does anyone have any idea about the scope of the services? I mean, as far as how much you feel like they might be using them? Just at these rates, it'd be nice to have some kind of idea where we were headed, or is there, I know it's hard to predict, but maybe historically. I don't know if you want to step up to the microphone and. Sorry to prevail upon you, but you're here.
No, it's okay. So we've mostly seen AKRF with relation to the Hudson Highlands Reserve project. I don't remember them, they don't come to our meetings. So if they're doing work, it's probably working with Ron Gaynor, which is not always visible to the people on the planning board, because by the time, whatever consultation there's been, they're not at our meetings. So I don't feel like we use them a lot. I just think we've used them in dealing with the Hudson Highlands Reserve in particular.
So maybe I should give Ron a call just to try to get a feeling before I go signing on to this
Yeah.
in an open-ended way.
I'm just trying to think if I've seen any documents or anything. I mean, they get consulted for things like traffic studies, and which we don't always have a lot of. We have, our projects, as you know, are relatively small.
Yeah.
We don't do big developments, and we don't, so Ron handles most of the stuff that we do.
Well, when they get involved with things like the Hudson Island Reserve, doesn't the applicant pay for most of those fees anyway?
Yeah, I've heard from the applicant on that. I still,
Just saying.
I understand that, but I also, just in terms of, even though it's an applicant, I still want to make sure we have some handle on where we're headed, and also just maybe to go back and historically see what's been billed against the accounts by AKRF before we go.
Yeah.
I know we need them, but I would like to have some idea of the history of it, and also maybe from Ron projecting how much he thinks. And I know it's tough because you don't know where the applications are going to come from, but maybe there's some historical data that we can look at and say.
Well, presumably the building department should have records of, billing and, and so I would look at those things, frankly.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a look at it before we adopt this. I'm going to.
But it also, just to your comment about, the applicant has to pay for it, when someone wants to build something, it's not incumbent upon the town to pay their fees.
Oh, no.
So I just, they're the ones who are gonna benefit, so they, whatever it costs the town to be able to oversee things properly, I think is appropriate.
Well, there was a couple sessions, though, with the planning board, that someone from AKRF was represented there, right?
Yeah, because it's, for the Hudson Highlands
Right,
Reserve
for the
project,
Hudson
yes, because
Highlands
there's
Reserve,
a
right, so they
large
did-
environmental,
Exactly.
component.
Right, so they did attend many of those meetings, though.
Yes, but that's the only project I can think of in recent years that they've,
I agree.
But if we
Been
can
around for-
save the applicant some money by, recognizing if there's a, I'm not suggesting another firm, but maybe compare it against another firm and say, our applicants are spending a lot of money on this service, and if we can help them out by just taking a better look at it, right? Is that
I thought we hired AKRF in the first place because they were,
reasonable?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, because they were qualified,
But,
because they were,
sure,
Absolutely.
but they're.
No, I'm not in
these-
any way trying to make a commentary on AKRF. Maybe what I'm really looking at is the whole system of escrow accounts, and
These are new fees,
that it may
right?
be an opportunity just to review some of that. And these
Well,
are new fees.
yeah, and presumably if you're going to be, making a contract with them, if these are their fees and you don't think the fees are appropriate, then you negotiate with them, to lower,
Do we know what
or,
they were last year?
That's what I'm looking
Okay,
to, yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean,
Because, if you look at between the officer and senior technical director, $5 an hour difference. I mean, it's not a big price differential in the top three.
no.
But it's 10 years of education difference, no, kidding.
And there's been some change out, obviously, of members there as well, so.
I mean,
Yes,
it seems to me if the thing to do would be to get some data from the building department and, say how, look at what, maybe have somebody put a spreadsheet together so that you can,
Yeah.
The only thing I would comment on is, one, they do cover the planner title or position in the actual code itself. But besides that, as long as we have the ability to gain access to a group like this if necessary, when we lost the wetlands inspector, I'd have been in serious trouble if I didn't have AKRF to help out. There was nobody to fill that void for a while. So that always, I think, needs to be there in case that occurs, possibly. But, you know, that doesn't have to be a set contract or anything, as long as we have that resource capability, if we were to have that happen again or something.
So what I'll do is I'll talk to the building department, I'll talk to Ron Gaynor, we'll review the historic records, and then by next week, we'll probably just be able to move on it because we can't have them just hanging out there if you're gonna need them. But again, it's gonna give me a chance to review the whole escrow
When's the next
escrow account,
September 20th.
September 20th. So well, I'm sure we'll have them on board by then. I just want to have a better idea of,
2 weeks, 2 weeks from today.
So
yeah, the old contract is still in place to the end of the year, so
they'll use
this,
them if they need them. We just
Yeah.
haven't established a new fee schedule.
true.
So let's keep it at this one.
Let's drop it down a little. You want the prestige of working for Philipstown? Working with Kim?
And many other people.
Yes.
Not just
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks for the
Thank you.
background.
You wanna-
So could I get a motion to table item 3?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the Code Enforcement Monthly Report. For the town, fees collected, $34,788.75. Total numbers of permits issued, 32. 1 new commercial industrial building, 3 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 1 addition, alteration, or repairs to commercial building, 27 all other permits, pools, sheds, decks, plumbing, HVAC, etc., 17 COs issued, 2 stop work orders issued, 4 inspections of public assembly, and 4 inspections of commercial occupancies. And now for the Village of Cold Spring. Fees collected, $2,615. Total number of permits, 5. 2 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 3 additions, alterations, or repairs to commercial buildings, 5 COs issued, 1 operating permit issued, and that's that.
That's it. Our thanks to Greg Winter. I spoke with Greg today on a couple of issues, so always nice to chat with Greg. Our thanks to the whole building department. I'll tell you, it's just been a real transformation for us. Pull this stuff in. Before we go on to scheduling anything, I did attend the Putnam County Shared Services Property Tax Savings Plan vote today.
Did they vote? No.
We did vote.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I want to back into this a little bit. You know, we've been working on this for more than a year now. We were meeting as supervisors, then there was a group formed that basically consisted of the Shared Services Panel, which was the county executive and all the supervisors and the mayors of the villages. What came out of it were 4 initiatives for short-term and then more than several initiatives for longer term. And, you know, my thanks to the county for putting the money forward to hire the consultant, number one, because we have to do this, the county has to do it. LaBerge Group is a really good engineering and architecture firm. The guy who presented today was excellent. I thought he had a lot of good ideas just outside of this. He's got a lot of good ideas for towns, for cost savings and consolidation of services, but there's not everyone signed on to the 4 short-term projects. One was joint purchasing, which just about everyone was interested in except for the town of Carmel. Sharing coordinating highway and public works services was another one. There was a 2 to that. One was a big portion that was snowplow coordination. Another part of that was shared line striping and paving coordination. There was another one for shared assessor. Only 2 of the communities were interested in that. We're not interested in that at all. We have a good assessor here. We have a great assessment department, and I think it's really critical to keep the assessor's office here in town. You know, they know the town, and people like coming in and having access to those records and being able to sit with someone and have them explain what's going on as far as assessments go. But there's an online report, the draft Putnam County report at this point. We voted to move ahead. Now, moving ahead with this is just to meet the mandate from New York State. What moving ahead means is going ahead and talking about these initiatives in more depth and seeing how, where the savings are going to come from, how we can band together to, affect some cost efficiencies and things like that. So this is just a first step. It was a pretty long meeting just to get to the vote, and there's no real commitment in a legal way to doing it. It's a commitment to pursue this as an effort. And again, we've been working on this for more than a year. There's could be IT support. There could be a whole host of things for long-range planning. But we had a vigorous discussion about it, started to go around in circles, and then I got annoyed and said, can't we just vote? So that's the end of it.
So when they were talking about purchasing, did the subject of emergency services equipment or highway equipment come up?
Highway equipment came up, definitely. Emergency services equipment is another whole ball of wax, as you and John well know. And all of us have felt the sting of that. But emergency services is one of the longer range initiatives that's in here.
That would be next year.
Yeah, because they're just trying to get this thing in. Number one, it has to be in place by September 15th.
Right.
And then anything that you can put into effect this year, and even into next year, you'll get a rebate from New York State. They're doing a one-time rebate. So anything you spend, New York will pay you back for. And so any initiatives that you save on, New York's going to come in and pay you that money. So it's an opportunity. I don't know how much will actually come back.
Are they going to pay each town, or are they going to pay?
They would pay the county, and the county would decide what to do with the money.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. But it is mandated by the state of New York, so we do have to meet it. And a lot of effort's obviously gone into it. Sat in some painfully boring meetings, but it has to get done. But everybody voted for it to move ahead with the whole idea. It's just another thing that New York is foisting off on communities, I feel like, forcing us to spend money on things like this. Everybody here knows that all the towns are trying to save money wherever they can. We don't, no one's here saying wasting money or anything like that. It's just, this is a small town. We have a tight budget, and we watch every penny. So it's hard to really say what this is going to lead to. I hope it leads to some things. I think the joint purchasing could lead to some good outcomes. Because obviously in numbers there's going to be some efficiency there. But the other things I'm not so sure about. I know that even the two towns that expressed an interest in the shared assessor services were not all that excited about doing it, because people feel like, again, it's important to have that local control. And if you went to, the one thing that LaBerge talked about was computer programs that can keep up on your assessments that work really well. One of my worries is these are also jobs, and you're saying you're going to start cutting positions, that means somebody's losing a job. And,
Well, the assessors are so specific to the community.
yeah, exactly.
The values here versus other areas, I think there's a huge discrepancy in locations.
They were talking about communities on Long Island doing 300,000 parcels.
One assessor.
One assessor doing 300,000 parcels with this program. But Brookhaven, he kept bringing up Brookhaven, but then one of the other supervisors brought up saying, well, Brookhaven's a mess, so I don't know. We'll see how that all works out. But anyway, it was a good effort, and we'll keep moving ahead with that. We are going to meet the mandate, so we're not penalized by New York State. And a lot of time and effort did go into it. So it was good getting together with the supervisors for the last year, too. Everybody, there's so much commonality there. The party lines just fall away when we all get in a room together. Everybody has the same responsibilities, the same goals in mind, and the same complaints and the same burdens that they carry around. So it's good to meet with them and pick each other's brains. That was interesting. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh, Mike had talked about the Catskill Aqueduct earlier. They haven't given us a date certain. That's going to impact the Continental Village Water District because that's where they get their water. So I've been working with the Cortland Town Supervisor to try to get an alternate source of water at a reasonable price. Some of the numbers we've been quoted so far, we'd look at a 5-fold increase in water bills, which is just not going to be something that's palatable by the average homeowner. So we're going to continue to work on that. It would be really good if they had given us a date certain. They're saying sometime in the fall. Well, fall's right around the corner, and we're still working out the details of where we would get water. And if you're talking about for the next 2 to 3 years, not having a steady source of water, that's problematic. So we're going to have to really take a hard look at that. Also, we're having some issues with the Garrison Water District. We've asked people to try to conserve water. We've had leak detection in. We cannot find the source of where this water is going to. So we're going to get back down there with environmental services. We may have to dig up large portions of the line. We may be looking at a new water line, which would be a major undertaking for a district that can only pay $18,000 a year in debt service and operations and maintenance. It's an insurmountable problem. The state of New York limits us to that $18,000 a year number, while at the same time we need to provide water to people, and it costs more than that. So it's a real problem. And we've been trucking in water for weeks now. And with the hot summer, people have used more water. We've asked them not to water lawns, not to do any discretionary watering just for mandatory usage. But it's tough to break bad habits. We've had the code enforcement officer down there a lot, and if we see people using the water from here on out outside for watering lawns and things like that, you're going to get cited and you're going to get fined. So just know that. As far as workshops go, does anyone have?
We discussed last night with Sandy Bowl from the Garrison Fire District about dry hydrant being installed at the rec department. I don't know if we need to have a workshop. I spoke with Carl today. They're going to go down and look at grading the road, possibly using millings on the road instead of the blacktop, because the millings are free at this point. So they said we'll go down and grade it, and we came up with the idea of putting millings down to give us a hard base so they can get an engine down and back there. So I don't know if we need to have a workshop.
I don't think we need a workshop for that. It's just to approve the work and get it done for them, because they're going to Garrison's going to put in the dry hydrant, which is great, especially for the rec center.
Yep.
But I guess Carl will handle the technical, the means and methods down there of getting in and getting a suitable surface that's going to be good for year round with snow plowing and all that.
Right. I met with them this afternoon. They're going to go down and look at it soon. So.
All right. Good. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks Sandy for all her hard work on that too.
Anything else from the board?
Do you want to touch on the renovations? Where do we stand?
Yeah, we're still pushing ahead on the renovation of Town Hall. We've had several setbacks now that we know we're going to come up against the Wicks laws, so we need to.
Justin has met with somebody today to go over the Wicks laws and the front end of the contract and how it's going to have to be broken out. So he's going to get to it in the next week or two, hopefully produce something that we can put back out to bid. So.
Yeah, as usual, it's always a little more complicated than first meets the eye, especially when you start looking at the, public works, the Wicks laws, the pay scales.
In an ancient building that is hiding a lot of stuff, I'm sure.
Well, it could be hiding underneath the ceiling.
Roller
Didn't those tiles come like that?
special features.
But we're going to get this building taken care of. We keep saying that, but it's just it's a tough slog. It really is. But I think we're almost there.
We're close.
We're close.
Sorry.
This close. We own the windows at this point.
Yeah.
Mike and I wanted to just mention that we were at the 100% humidity, and the subject was winter and salt yesterday at our meeting with Russell Urban Mead and Michelle Smith and the Chazen Group and the groundwater study that they're working on. And the topic for 2.5 hours was salt and our solution to, not use so much salt on every level. If you want more detail.
Yeah, Barbara was attended as well. Yes, basically what I thought was interesting, John Tully, who was brought as the Deputy Commissioner of Putnam County Highway Department, went into a lot of detail. Obviously, it's not my area of expertise, but what I came away with, at least, as the in a nutshell items, was the fact that they're saving 5% a year. And I asked him how many years. He said he thinks 4 or 5 on salt actual purchase. And usage was something of noteworthiness. The other thing also was the actual, what they call, I guess, dump versus rotator. Actually, how does the salt sand get actually dispensed out onto the roads? And and thought about the rotator. If you don't use the rotator, you just do a dump, that you might have to come back again. And just in my head, I was sitting there thinking, I remember following a lot of trucks and so forth, and it seems like almost 25% of the salt and the sand ends up beyond the actual roads. We have mostly we mostly have glorified horse trails in this town for most of our roads. So they're not very narrow. So maybe that's an area that we could clearly look at. Besides the environmental issues, we went down, Nancy, I think you provided the Adirondack study?
There's a great study
Yeah,
called
it was. I read it today.
adkaction.org, and there's a great group up in the Adirondacks who are faced with the same problem. Their concern, obviously, is the salt polluting their environment, and they came up with best practices. Then they're still working on solutions. It's a really tough thing to solve. You need the roads cleared. My solution of staying home didn't go over so well, but
Yeah, well, that's that. I wrote that down as one of the mindsets, as you brought up, that people have to realize that maybe, I remember years ago as a kid, the roads had more snow on them. They weren't blacktopped all the time, which is a big point that Rich raises, is we just can't, do that automatically every each storm because we're using so much salt and sand that maybe we have to make some adjustments. Of course, take care of the steep slopes, but maybe the flatter surfaces, there's snow on it for a little bit and we drive slower.
Or you could just do like the state and just close the road like they did with 84 when it snowed. Just put the gate down. It's amazing.
So, the stuff that accumulates on the sides of the roads for cleanup and so forth, especially at the end of the season. They said there's some new equipment about the plows. I don't remember exactly what they said, but Carl Facenda was there, the highway superintendent as well, and he brought out points, and I know that he wrote that down as a follow-up to discuss that with the county in regards to different machines and so forth, to be able to try to improve on that. Because each year, we're going to do it next month, we're going to talk about the budget and salt, and that's going to be, besides all the environmental problems, the wildlife, the soil, the wetlands, all of that, it's expensive, right? And it just keeps going up every time. So we really got to start to get serious on this issue. And it was a great first meeting. Michelle Smith would have been here tonight, but she had another meeting. She's the director of Hudson Highlands.
Thanks
And
for putting that
that
together,
was,
Michelle.
yep, it was very good first meeting, and there will be more. And hopefully we can come up with studying other people's results and come up with some solutions.
Yeah, it's an important issue, definitely. I mean, I say it a lot, and, if we had all the money in the world, we'd buy magnesium salt solely and just do a magnesium brine all the time, but it's prohibitively expensive, but so is fouling the environment. So we do have to come up with something, and just to put it in perspective, over the course of winter, just in Philipstown alone, you may see 5,000 tons of salt used, and that's a lot, because you have not only the town of Philipstown, the village of Cold Spring, private contractors, Putnam County, New York State, all doing it at once. And in a single storm, town of Philipstown, if we have a bad storm, we may put down 600 tons, just us alone in a single storm. So people just we're gonna have to do something from a lot of angles, expectations. 10 minutes after the last snowflake hits the ground, you cannot go 50 miles an hour down a back road. It's just not gonna work. And we may have to look at buying less salt and investing in some of these magnesium products, because this can't go on. It's not sustainable. It's just not. I mean, it's going into the groundwater. Eventually, it's going to impact all the groundwater. We've seen some wells impacted already.
Not to mention the trees and the root systems, and you see all those dead trees along
Yeah, it kills
the sides
everything in
of
its
the roads.
path. Yeah, salt is a persistent, pathogen. So it's, yes, Kim.
Do we have maybe we could do a study of high blood pressure in this town?
Well, if
based
you
on the salt.
if you see the warnings in some of the places that sell coffee, because the water and the salt, and don't drink the coffee if you have high blood pressure. It's no joke, and it is not a good situation. But you do have the public welfare, and the highway department's mandate is to maintain the roads and maintain safe passage over the roads, especially for school buses. And it really is a tough issue, but we are taking a serious look at it. So, thank you. Bob, anything?
No, I don't have anything.
John? All right, anything from the audience? All right. Let's Let's move it on. Vacancies, look at this. 0.
Wow.
For 2 more months,
2 more months.
then we lose Eric.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Eric Lind is moving on to greener pastures.
Really?
Yep. Approval of vouchers, general.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Highway.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Continental Village Park District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Continental Village Water District.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
again.
Congratulations again.
I'm sure Mike will be